In this video, we'll review SiriusXM's fish mapping service using a Garmin display. Once you have the Garmin GXM54 receiver installed and you are subscribed to the fish mapping service, you will see a dedicated fish mapping icon appear on your home screen. Please note that the fish mapping service gives you full access to all the weather features, but to minimize screen clutter, you will not be able to overlay weather on top of the fish mapping features. The SiriusXM fish mapping service is provided in partnership with Maxar Technologies. Maxar employs a team of oceanographers that collect data from various satellites and has been providing commercial fishermen with key fishery information for over 2 decades. Maxar also provides satellite imagery for Google Earth. After clicking on the fish mapping icon on the home screen and selecting Menu, you'll see 3 tabs listed at the top of the screen. When the top tab is selected, the fish mapping menu is available. Now let's walk through each of the layers on the fish mapping menu. First, click on Menu and then on Layers. By clicking on the Layers menu, you can access all 8 fish mapping features. The first 3 features are sea temperature related. The second 2 features are plankton related. And then the remaining 3 features are surface height anomaly, weed lines, and fishing recommendations. You'll also notice a green bar next to each one of the features. This signifies that that particular data layer is turned on. If any data is available, it will be overlaid directly on your chart. Next, let's review the subscription button on the fish mapping menu. After clicking on this button, you will see a column labeled Data Updated at the top, which provides the exact time the data was sent to our satellites. Also note that this screen will alternate with Received. Received is the time that your MFD actually receives this data from our satellites. We recommend looking at the subscription button soon after turning on your MFD, so you can see when you've received the various fish mapping features. Note that some features may take up to 20 minutes to receive. Next, let's look at feature update times. It's important to note that features update at different times. Sea surface temperature contours update every 3 hours. Otherwise, the remaining update daily, with the exception of fishing recommendations, which update twice a week on Tuesday and Friday mornings.
Now we've returned to the fish mapping main screen. Again, select the menu button at the bottom to bring up the fish mapping menu. Now we're going to select the layers button, which brings up our choices for the various layers. First, we're going to look at sea temperature. By pressing this button, we now bring up the 3 temperature layer choices. With surface contours selected, you'll see red contour lines show up on screen. These give you the sea surface temperatures in 2-degree increments. You'll also note there's a legend over to the left that gives you the age of the data. To the right, there's also a Sea Temp Limit button. By selecting this button, we're able to change the temperatures and the way they're displayed on screen. Here, we're looking at 32 to 99 degrees. If we change the limits, for example, to 68 to 73 degrees, we now see that the colors of the contours on the screen have changed to better indicate where a temperature break is occurring. Now, we're moving down to the surface front strength feature. With it selected, you'll see a different type of contour line show up on screen with a number ranging from 1 to 4. Temperature contour front strength is indicating where the most productive temperature breaks are occurring, where there's a very substantial temperature break occurring. So the number scale running from 1 to 4, 4 is the best. You'll also notice that the lines change color and the legend gives you an indicator of which is the weak front and which is the strong, and also gives you the age of the data. Here's an example of comparing the temperature front strength to traditional sea surface temperature information. We can see there's a very sharp color change along this line off of Hatteras Island. On the fish mapping screen, we can see this is showing up as a very strong temperature front. Here, we've gone back and selected the 30-meter subsurface temperatures. So you can see on screen, we're looking at 68 degrees. This is indicative of the water temperature at 100 feet below the surface. For comparison purposes, we're showing you two screens side by side. The screen on the left is surface temperature. So we can see this in this shot taken off the coast of Delaware. The surface temperature is at about 60 degrees where the cursor is. And the cursor lat-long position is the same on both these screenshots. On the screen on the right, we're looking at the subsurface temperature, where it's indicated that the temperature 100 feet below the surface is 68 degrees. This example is showing you the Gulf Stream and how it affects water temperatures. On the surface, on this particular day, it was 60 degrees, and below the surface, it was 68 degrees.
Next, we will review the two plankton features. Anglers often use the term chlorophyll. As chlorophyll is a byproduct of plankton, we only use the term plankton for these features. First, let's look at plankton concentration contours. Plankton concentrations show contour lines with the amount of plankton in a given area. This is measured in milligrams per cubic meter. Next, we'll look at plankton front strengths. Plankton front strengths show areas where nutrient-rich water, favorable for bait fish, occur next to clearer water that is preferred for game fish. Like sea surface temperature fronts, plankton fronts are based on a scale from 1 to 4, 1 being a weak front and 4 being a very strong front. Ideally, you're looking for 3s and 4s that show strong and very strong fronts. If you look at the legend, you'll also notice that the areas with the weakest fronts are shaded in light green, and the areas with the strongest fronts are shaded in darker green. Next, we look at combining sea surface temperature fronts and plankton fronts together on the same screen. In areas where both strong and very strong temperature and plankton fronts coincide or overlap, there tends to be a higher probability of finding fish in these areas. Next, let's look at sea surface height anomaly, otherwise known as upwellings and downwellings. This feature demonstrates areas where the ocean is rising, known as an upwelling, or falling, known as a downwelling. Areas of upwelling tend to bring nutrient-rich water up from below, and as such are the preferred areas most likely to find bait fish and game fish activity. Conversely, downwelling areas tend to be nutrient-poor areas, and as such are not as likely to produce bait and game fish activity. Next, let's look at our weed line feature. Weed lines are based on the ocean's reflectivity. This data is captured by NASA satellites and then refined by our oceanographers to only include the most prominent weed lines in the ocean. Please note that weed lines are typically not displayed within 20 miles of the land, as there is often too much potential for reflectivity interference or clutter. Considering that weed lines are constantly moving, depending on current, waves, wind, and other activities, we provide 3 days of weed line data. 2 days old, yesterday, and then today. This historic data is included to help you track the path of weed lines and more accurately assess where weed lines may be located when you're out on the water. Weed lines are shaded based on the time that they appear. If you look in the legend, you'll see that older weed lines are a lighter shade and newer weed lines are a darker shade. By turning on the loop button, you can see the movement of weed lines from one day to the next. You can also touch your screen to determine the exact date and time when a weed line was recorded. Next, we'll look at the fishing recommendations feature. Fishing recommendations are updated twice a week by oceanographers and are based on specific oceanographic conditions for each species, including conditions like sea temperatures, plankton, sea height, bottom contours, and other key oceanographic conditions. There are currently 6 species of fish included in fishing recommendations. In the drop-down menu, you can choose any fish you are targeting or overlay them on the screen all at the same time. It's important to note, however, that just because a specific species is listed in a given area does not mean that you can only catch this species. Generally speaking, areas with any fishing recommendation demonstrate areas that are much more likely to have bait fish and include the key oceanographic conditions that often attract bait and game fish.
Here, we've overlaid all of the data elements so you can better see where the most productive fishing areas are going to be. We're showing you fishing recommendations, plankton contours, and temperature contours. It's interesting to note how the contours follow where the recommendations are. You can also see from the legend on the side which layers are turned on. Here, we've done a split screen. Many of our subscribers have expressed the desire to see bottom contours at the same time as the fishing mapping information. Currently, this is not possible to see them overlaid together on one screen, but it's very easy to split the screen so you can see your bottom contours and your fishing information at the same time. Now, a little talk about the hardware. The Garmin GXM54 is the current SiriusXM receiver that can utilize the fish mapping information. The manufacturer suggested list price is $799. However, there is a $100 SiriusXM rebate running until the end of December 2020. Also, new subscribers receive their first month free. Please call 844-342-0665 and ask for your free trial offer when subscribing to the new fish mapping service. The new service sells for $99.99 per month. And please note, this set includes all of our weather features in addition to the new fish mapping layers. It is a fixed cost. You're not paying for the service by regions, and you're not paying for it per the fishing trip. The $99.99 per month covers everything. Also note, you can suspend the service. If you're not fishing all year long, if the boat goes on the hard for 6 months out of the year, please call and ask to have your service suspended. Or if you're putting the boat up just for a short time, a month, for example, you can still call us and suspend your service. So you're only paying for the service when you're using it.
SiriusXM Marine is working together to support the Dolphin research project, and we encourage you to do the same. Since 2002, the DRP has tagged and released almost 30,000 dolphin fish and recaptured almost 700. The DRP provides critical migratory information about the movement of dolphin fish and helps to conserve them. We encourage you to sign up to get your own free tagging kit. Tagging is free and it's easy, and it can be accessed at dolphintagging.com/tags. We also have a very vibrant SiriusXM Marine resource library. You can go to our fish mapping website. You can visit our dedicated video library that shows up by brand, or you can visit our YouTube channel, which has a whole host of educational videos for you. We also encourage you to sign up and follow us on social media at facebook.com/SiriusXM Marine, or on our Instagram page at SiriusXM_Marine. Last but not least, if you have any questions, need technical support, have questions about your service, feel free to email us directly, SiriusXM Marine, and it's marine.support@SiriusXM.com. Or if you have specific technical hardware related questions with Garmin, you can email them directly at marine.training@garmin.com. Thanks for joining us.